And welcome to the Business Renovator. If it's your first time, welcome here. If it's a second or third or a return visit, welcome back. Thanks for being here. My name is Phil Jokes, or some people refer to me as Coach Phil. As you'll see behind me on my screen is my website and my email address. What I like to do before we get jumping into today's topic about leapfrogging over your current reality, let's go to Brian Monahan's book, The Customer Delight. And in here for today, I picked a Tony Robbins quote because I wanted to. Life is about making choices, right? So what does Tony say? Tony says it's not knowing what to do, it's doing what you know. Tony Robbins. Brian's take on that, there's 3 or 4 paragraphs in here where Brian dives deep into his beliefs around that in respect to delighting your customers. And one of the paragraphs I would like to take out of that from Brian's wisdom is, when I find myself in a challenging situation with no clear path, I remind myself that there isn't a right answer. I ask myself, based on what I know and what information is available to me, how best should I proceed? So I picked that because Brian's insight, it's kind of about what I'm going to talk about, leapfrogging over your current reality. Does that sound crazy? It does for some people. If you're linear in your thinking and need to have a step-by-step, it has to happen in a certain way, then what I'm going to share with you today will maybe jar your preserves, as one of my mentors from back in the 70s told me. Yes, I am that old. I used to have long hair and didn't wear ties and all sorts of stuff, but now I don't have long hair and I sometimes wear a tie. Well, Val Vanderwall said that this kind of thinking will jar your preserves. Or when we're going through something like what's going around the globe right now, everybody's living in these strange times in a pandemic, these kind of things jar your preserves. Now, what does he mean by jar your preserves? Well, just like if you're creating a pickles or jams, you're going to jar your preserves. You put them down into a jar, you hunker down, put them in there so they stay fresh, and when you need them, they're available to eat and consume. From a human point of view, some people, when tragedy or stress shows up, tend to do the same thing as the preserves. They hunker down, batten up their hatches, and hope like heck they survive. Now, that is certainly one strategy. What I'm going to cause you to think about today, at least I hope I'm going to cause you to think about today, is how can you jar your preserves in a different way so that you show up not linear in your thinking, but more Whiteheadian. Now, for some people, you may not know what Whiteheadian is, but Whiteheadian means that outside situations are not dictating our reality. Now, they do have an impact. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's how we respond to those things, though, that makes a difference. So if you can jar your preserves and turn on your creative juices, you can make things happen differently than if you went linear. So I'm encouraging you to jar your preserves by thinking differently than you've currently or had been thinking about. I'm going to share my screen just to show an example. It's a common puzzle for most people. Let me see if I can bring it up here. The 9 dots. Now, the 9 dots represents metaphorically our world. And the challenge with this 9 dots is you are to join all of the dots with 4 straight lines without taking your pen or pencil off the paper and without going over the same line twice. So 4 lines, pen on the paper, and you cannot go back and forth over the same line twice. 4 lines. That's my challenge. So if you would like to participate in the challenge and send your solutions to me, you can do that by sending me an email at, phil@coachphil.ca. That's phil@coachphil.ca. Let's have some fun with that. So let's move right along to today's topic. Today's topic starts off with this mindset. You want to expect success. So yes, you expect success. Today's title was Leapfrogging Current Reality. How the heck can you do that? Well, one of the people that I've been studying for 30 some odd years since he's passed away in 2012, but his legacy lives on in his teachings and his writings. I have a book here called A Better World, A Better You by Lou Tice. Now, Lou Tice had a huge impact around the globe with a variety of different people, from reducing the recidivism in the U.S. penal system, never having been a prisoner, a warden, criminologist degree, or any expertise in prison systems. He just wanted to stop people going back to prison. So he talks about that example in here, about how he leapfrogged the system and became someone who had a huge impact on the penal system. And as a result of that, saved a lot of people's lives, both in the penal system and changing the convicts into productive, contributing people in society. One of the people that helped him in that role was a hardened criminal, 17 years in one of the, I think it was Sing Sing in the U.S., Gordy Graham. And as Lou said, he had a doctorate that nobody would pay for in terms of his experience. So Lou took him under his arms and coached him through these principles and these concepts and helped him break out of the 9 dots in his own world. And as a result of that, he has, over the years of his experience with Lou and teaching these concepts, has worked with Fortune 100 and 500 companies, making an impact in their worlds as well. So what? How does that relate to Coach Phil? Well, back in the 90s, I started a business in an unconventional way. I didn't have the wherewithal to start a business and couldn't get banks to support me, so I need to do it a different way. So taking these ideas that Lou talks about, Lou Tice being the author of A Better World, A Better You, I applied it. I thought, well, if this can work for Lou and Gordy Graham, what could it do for me? How could I make it work for me? So how I started my business, or at least my marketing strategy, was to create a networking group. Called it the Winner Circle Networking Breakfast. Now I was mentored by a couple of wonderful ladies that taught me their way of running a networking breakfast. Or it didn't have to be a breakfast, but I chose that time of day. But the principles were getting people together of like-mindedness to support and network each other for fun and profit. And as a result of that, running that for 5 years, it was pretty much my dominant marketing strategy to grow my business. And as a result of doing that, I met some really cool and interesting people. Because one of the things we do is we get speakers to come and talk to us out of our own local marketplace. We didn't have the internet and didn't have live streaming. None of this had been thought about yet. It was probably there somewhere in somebody's imagination, but just hadn't arrived here in the physical plane. So I had to do things differently. Fax was the common way to communicate, or a snail mail, or a phone. And through the process of meeting the people that I met and the speakers we had and the lessons I've learned with those people and running one of these sort of things for a 5-year period, I came across a fellow who was looking for someone to help sell his software. And he was working for a company where the company he was working for kind of sort of did pretty much the same thing he did, but at a larger scale. So they were okay with him having the software, but he was trying to have an arm's length distance away from it, so he's not dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. So I met him at a dance stampede, which is a whole nother story, but it was all happened through the Winner's Circle networking breakfast, the people I met. So in meeting Randy, and he talked to me about his product he had called Path Tracker, which is a directional drilling program to help do exploration in the oil and gas world. Now, I didn't even know that they could do directional drilling or pipe could bend that much. Anyway, that's another story for another day. What I did was I took it on because of the Winner Circle Networking Breakfast, thinking that because of the people I knew and the people that they were connected to, keeping in mind as a rule of thumb, everybody knows about 250 people on average. So I'm thinking with a couple of hundred people that I know from the Winner Circle Breakfast Club, there's got to be somebody there that could help me find somebody for Randy's challenge. So going back to what Lou talks about, if you know what you want and why you want it, and don't get stuck in the present reality, but look forward to an outcome that you would like to have show up in your life. So this example of that for me was to find Randy a salesperson who actually knew something about directional drilling and software and could help him out. Well, I'm really not in the headhunting business, but I thought through the people I knew, I could help find somebody and at least have somebody to interview. Well, I tried for about, I don't know, a couple of months. And I have to say, I failed. But if we know what fail means, first attempt in learning, I changed what I was going to do. And I phoned Randy and actually I said, you know what, I've been doing this for a couple of months now, and I'm attempting to find somebody. I said, I'm shocked I can't find anybody. Not even a nibble. But I had this crazy idea. So Randy asked me, what's a crazy idea? I says, what about me? So if you know what you want and why you want it to help somebody with a solution, who knows how that will show up? And as a result of that, making the long story short, I actually earned the right to be that guy for Randy and help him distance himself from his current employer in terms of his software program. The sad part of this is Randy was a hell of a nice guy. He was only 40 years old when he passed, but he was the type of guy that if you were friends with him, you'd be friends with him for life. And it's sad to say his life was taken prematurely, for sure. He was a beautiful, beautiful man, beautiful human being. So I wanted to keep the legacy going of his product because of the time and energy that he put into it. So to help his wife out, I ended up buying it out of the estate. But what do I know about programming? Absolutely not very much. I don't know how to code, but I do know a bunch of things from past experiences. And all of those things combined together helped me come up with a way to create my ideal life at that time. Now, Windows XP was going to be disappearing. And then when that was happening, the software would have died a death and Randy's legacy would have not lived on. So what do? Well, now you've moved the horizon. You changed the way you're looking at things, and your what and why is different. Now I needed to find a programmer that would write the software, rewrite the software, so it would run on any platform. And we're not being held hostage to Windows XP. Now, it didn't happen overnight. And one of the things I know about software development is that you can set out a goal to have the program written and developed and produced. Two things happen. You run out of time and you run out of money. Now, that sounds like I'm picking on the programmers. Absolutely not. My past life, I worked in technology, selling mainframes, mini computers, and a few other things in around the computer space. And what I learned in that experience was you're at risk of spec creep coming in. And so I didn't want to have to remortgage my home to pay for something that may not ever get completed because I ran out of time and money. So I wanted to find another creative and innovative way to make it happen. Now, it took me a good couple of years to find the right person, but I interviewed with a number of people that were programmers and great coders, but I needed one that was in the right mindset, that would actually write the software, learn what the application was all about, and rewrite it in a platform that would support it for years to come. And they'd build it like it was their own, like they cared about it. So, make a long story short, that happened. And we've been going together with this product for about 20 years. So it's amazing what you can do if you just let things jar your preserves in a way that fosters opportunity instead of hunkering down and worrying about, oh, what the hell is going to happen? How are we going to get this done? Look at ways to be solution-oriented and solution-focused. So I want to show you some other things in here. Kind of jump the gun, but are your visions and your goals like a pumpkin jug or a pill bottle? The concept behind that is we perform based on what our self-concept, our self-image. So do we see ourselves as a pumpkin jug or do we see ourselves as a pill bottle? Now, a pumpkin jug is bigger than a pill bottle. Pill bottle is tiny. Pumpkin jug is quite large because it was put in a milk jug, actually. Pumpkin in a milk jug. So the milk jug was a glass one, and the fellow had the pumpkin at this fall harvest in the competition, won because he had the most unique looking pumpkin because he put it in a milk jar, not a pill bottle. So what's that got to do with anything? Well, what that's got to do with everything is just like us, we are restricted by the way we see ourselves. Do we see ourselves as small, hunkered down like a pill bottle, or do we see ourselves like a milk jug with a pumpkin in it and growing and being creative and different than other people in a good way, and better than you were the day before? So how the heck do you get a pumpkin to grow this in a milk jug? Well, apparently the science behind it was pretty easy. Once the farmer had started the plant growing, and once it blossomed, he put the blossom into the milk jug, and it grew into the shape of the milk jug, and then he broke it and took it to the contest and won. So there's a creative way to get things done. I shared a creative way to get things done in terms of the software. I thought beyond the pill bottle. I wanted to see if I could make what Lou Tice was teaching applicable for me. So that served me very, very well over the last, 30 years. And the people I get to work with, I introduce these concepts with them and help them manifest and create the dreams and live the life that they want to do faster than they probably ever had before. So you are in the belief business, believe it or not. So what are you believing about yourself? Where do you see yourself in the future? Is it positive? Is it where you want to be? Or are you stuck in the past, thinking about the good old days and how great they were? Now, I'm not saying not to ever reflect on the memories that we have. Those are absolutely wonderful. As a matter of fact, I have a process that we utilize called the 100 Success List. And the reason I do that is to help people find a way to increase your efficacy. Dr. Bandera says we go through our successes way too quickly and way too lightly. And because of that, we don't see ourselves at our future best as easily and as readily. So 100 success lists, right? Let's start with 100 successes, list them all out and see what happens to you. Now I'm going to talk in great detail about that. But that's one of the things that I'm a big fan of. It's been life-changing for me. So the challenge I have for you today for watching here, and if you're watching this on the replay, I challenge you to do it as well. And this is write your ideal life story. Imagine yourself as a Stephen King, and you write terrific fantasy novels. Because as Walt Disney says, life shows up first in our imagination. So imagination is a preview of our life's coming attractions. So by writing your ideal life story, guess what happens? You start thinking about ways that you could move from your current situation, current reality, into your ideal life in all areas that you would like to do. Does that mean by writing the story, you're guaranteed that you're going to have that kind of life? Absolutely not. But I'm pretty sure that guarantees you, if you don't write it, that you'll be basically kind of stumbling along and taking whatever life throws at you instead of taking charge and designing a life that you would prefer to live. And it's not always about money, but money can be part of it. Relationships, health and fitness, career. Those are 4 key areas that if you were to put energy into those and write your life story as if it's already done, give yourself permission to let go of the how. You don't need to have the money in place. You don't need to have all the resources right there. It's just the story. Write a chapter. Fill it full of images. Raise the level of emotions so that it really drives you to want to do it. And if you do that, well, who knows what you could make happen, what you could make happen in your life. Much the same as me, finding a way to get the software rewritten, redesigned, and it's been such a stable product. It's really stable. We're not a huge company by any stretch of the imagination, but our software is being used by some of the largest companies in the world in faraway places like South Africa, Australia, and not so far away, the US and Canada. So who knows where you could go if you dare to write your life story as if it's already done. Write it in the first person, present tense, and be positive. And anytime something shows up in your mind that stops you from coming up with a solution to get to your end result, just say to yourself, stop it. Right now, I'm going to be focusing on this fantasy. Yes, it's a fantasy, but that's where everything starts, in our imagination. And the biggest nation in the world is our imagination. So I challenge you and encourage you to write your life story. That's it for me today. If you like this, share it with other people. That would be terrific. And if you have an idea for a topic or somebody you know would like to be a guest that would make sense to our audiences to learn from, send me a note. Let me know who they are, and happy to have a conversation with them and see if we can get them on in the next little while. Again, be wonderful. It's Coach Phil Jones here. I'm going to go stop in and see who's popped on. Hey, there's Ron Goodwin. Keep your powder dry and keep shooting. Yeah, that's really good advice. I love it. Good morning, Kellen. Thanks, guys, for being here. Love you guys. Appreciate you. And you're all wonderful, whether you're here live or see this on the replay. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you on the next Business Renovator.